please welcome David Kroll.
Hey, great to see you. Hey, so I'm your drug guy. And people often wonder, yeah, I'm your drug guy. I'm the medicine man. Anybody know where your drugs come from? Yes. So some found in the ocean and the jungle, right. So it's really surprising. I remember this Happy Days episode where Richie Cunningham gets really drunk, and someone walks in and asks one of these kids, where did this beer come from? And this drunk kid goes, Milwaukee. So actually, yeah, a lot of drugs come from nature, and I think folks don't truly understand. You think of drugs as bad. Drugs are bad because they're chemicals, and they're chemicals made by some chemical company wanting to make a bunch of profits off of you and screw you and not care if you die. Well, our drugs come from nature, beautiful, complex nature. Nature's been in the drug discovery business for literally 4.5 billion years. Where do you encounter naturally occurring drugs? 25% of prescription drugs, believe it or not, 60% of over-the-counter drugs. Anybody ever use this stuff, Neosporin? And believe me, I don't have a financial relationship with any of the products that I'm going to show tonight. Not even Cree. Neosporin is a beautiful thing. If you're a parent, you're always putting it on your kids. It is a triple antibiotic ointment. It contains 3 antibiotics, Bacitracin, polymyxin B, and neomycin. Really fascinating antibiotics. All of them come from nature. All of them were isolated from microorganisms that grow in the soil. I'll come back to Neosporin in a second. What do I have in my magic bag of drug tricks? Nasal decongestant, Pseudoephedrine. Yes, I did purchase this by showing my driver's license. I'm sorry? How many did I purchase? That's a Breaking Bad fan right there. Nasal decongestant, pseudoephedrine. Pseudoephedrine was originally discovered as a natural product. Anybody know where? Anybody know? Any Mormons in the audience? Any Utahns in the audience? No. Pseudoephedrine is a natural product of what's called Mormon tea. It's a bush of the ephedra genus, and it contains, the Mormons don't let you have caffeine, right? But you can take pseudoephedrine. Woohoo! So pseudoephedrine, it's actually no longer extracted from the ephedra plant. It's cheaper to actually make it in the laboratory, but it is it's a synthetic version of a natural product. And then there's a whole bunch of different kind of natural products that come from us or come from other organisms. In fact, the first genetically recombinant natural product that was produced in the United States was human insulin. We used to get insulin from where? From nuns. That's steroid hormones. Who said? Cows, horses, pigs, exactly. We used to grind up pig pancreases. The leftover parts of North Carolina barbecue cured folks of diabetes, but you get a lot of allergic reactions. So what we did with insulin was we took the gene for human insulin, put it into something that would replicate in bacteria, and then the bacteria worked as the factory to make human insulin. So we've got a lot of things like that. A couple other drugs I take, they're about ready to take. They knew I had the pseudoephedrine. A couple other drugs I take is, I'm an asthmatic. How many people with asthma? Woohoo! Do people look at you funny whenever you take a hit off of this when you're like in public? It's kind of odd. So when we breathe and when we run, there's a neurotransmitter release called norepinephrine that causes our heart to beat faster, that causes our smooth muscle in the tubes or bronchioles in our lungs to open up. How am I doing?
Just about 4.
All right. This actually is a replica of a chemical that we make, norepinephrine, except norepinephrine acts in the body and then it gets degraded. What's done for the drug is there's been a chemical modification of norepinephrine to create Ventolin, or albuterol is its generic name, to have a longer lasting effect. It's actually more potent than norepinephrine too. So, and then here's another one called ranitidine, and it goes by Zantac by the brand name. There was a first compound called Tagamet. Anybody take Tagamet? I know my parents did with me growing up. That release heartburn. It actually blocks the production of gastric acid in the stomach. This actually started off as a natural chemical that occurs in our bodies called histamine. And this is a specific type of antihistamine that only works on the histamine receptors that are in your stomach and not widely known that are in your uterus, for those of you who are uterus carrying. And this was actually, this won the Nobel Prize in 1988 for Sir James Black, a recently deceased British pharmacologist who really was the best example of how to negotiate academia with pharmaceutical businesses. Last bit of thing, little trivia. When I graduated high school, I've been a scientist for 25 years, studying this stuff for about 20 years. But when I graduated high school, I won no science awards. I won at graduation the award for history. So I've always been interested in the history of all these things. Neosporin, specifically the compound called bacitracin, it came from a spin-off of Alexander Fleming looking at microorganisms that produce other antibiotic things. He saw a fungus growing in a petri dish, and it stopped the growth of bacteria around it. In fact, it was a failed experiment, of which I've done many. And he was able to take this failed experiment, turn lemons into lemonade, and actually wasn't really until Florey made it commercially viable later on. So it started these wild people in science from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. They started culturing everything. They started collecting dirt around the world. They started swabbing people, not dissimilar from what we're doing here in our citizen science program. Turned out that there was a girl named Margaret Tracy in 1945 who had a compound fracture of her leg, of her tibia, showed up at Columbia Hospital. And this is really the pre-antibiotic area. Margaret Tracy probably should have died. Compound fractures, once they break the skin, often become infected and lead to sepsis, and that's a situation incompatible with life. So, but she didn't die, and in fact, it healed fairly rapidly. But there was dirt in her wound, and so what did the doctors do? They said, we're going to culture that dirt. There must be something in that dirt that was protecting her. And sure enough, they grew up a bacteria that we call Bacillus subtilis, and they named it, a strain is called Tracy 1. And so Bacillus, Bacitracin for Margaret Tracy. So a little bit of history for you tonight. Be proud of your natural products. Not all drugs are nasty, horrible things meant to kill you and to make profits for drug companies who don't care about you. This is nature, nature's drug discovery network, and something I've been incredibly proud to study for much of my career. Thank you very much.
David Kroll. Excellent. Well, thank you. And how about keep it going? A nice round of applause for everyone we've heard tonight.